If you trust the world to tell you who you are, then you will never, ever be able to recognize yourself. On a soul level, you will never have even met yourself. You will not be able to know anywhere close to who you are because the projections of the world might be completely different from your soul's identity. And this is so, so important for us to understand. So often, we grow up, we live our whole lives identifying with our job, we identify with our role, that we are a daughter, a mother, an employee, an employer, all of these different things, that we are an influencer, a podcaster, a tennis player, a artist, right? Like there's all these different things that we can identify with. But we also choose identities on a subconscious level that you might not even realize that you chose. And you can absorb these identities based on people saying things to you and about you directly, like saying, oh, you're just a dumb blonde. I know I have blonde hair, so I heard that a little bit in my own life, for example. Um, or just things that are implied around you. For example, when media depicts women having a very soft-spoken damsel in distress type of energy or persona, and those are the only types of movies that you've seen, whether or not you are consciously aware of it, you are going to start to identify as a weaker person or as a damsel in distress if you yourself are a woman or if you look like that character. This is why representation is so important in media, and that's a whole other conversation that we should have for a whole other day, because when we only depict people in a certain way, people will subconsciously start to behave in that way. So if women are only depicted as powerless, as overworking, as constantly self-sacrificing and things like that, then the women in the public, whether you consciously choose to be this way or not, you will start behaving that way because that is how the brain works. We're a lot more connected than we think that we are. We absorb a lot more information than we think that we do. It is just how the brain works. It's not a flaw about you in particular. It's just that we are naturally herd animals and we absorb the trends that are around us and we'll start to embody those trends whether you consciously want to or not. I personally have not consumed that type of media in so many years, and I still have those little voices inside of me that tell me to make certain choices in order to honor those types of ideas of media and things like that. But again, we could probably talk about this for hours and hours and hours. And what I really want to talk about with you here is your self-identity and embodying and choosing and creating a self-identity that's actually going to help you achieve your goals, that's actually going to help you behave in a way that you feel proud of at the end of every single day without you having to think so hard about it. So oftentimes as we grow up, we are absorbing information. I shouldn't even say oftentimes because this is literally scientifically proven. This is how the brain works through neuroscience, is up until 7, you are just like a sponge. You're just absorbing and absorbing information about how the world works. From 7 to 14, you're kind of testing that information, seeing what actually works, what doesn't work. It's all a test at that point. And then from 14 to 18, what the brain is doing is it is proving to itself that the beliefs that it created from 0 to 7 are actually true, which is fascinating to realize that in our teenage years, we are proving to ourselves our own beliefs, our own identity, and things like that. Now, being a human being is really, really challenging for multiple reasons. Your identity is constantly shifting. Your identity can shift slowly, and your identity can also shift instantly. If you buy a home, you suddenly become a homeowner. If you give birth to a child, you suddenly become a mother. Our identities can shift instantaneously. It doesn't have to be something that we have to wait for it to happen or something like that. But so often when I have spoken with people over the years, what I've noticed is that the identity that we have adopted is actually not our true identity. It is so incredibly far from what our higher self looks like, from how God sees us, and from who we truly are. And I personally experienced this, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my own personal journey, and maybe it's something that you can relate to yourself. In my own journey, the most common insult that I would get was being called stupid. Even just last week, I made a post on Instagram sharing some ideas, some prayers for the earth, and I got thousands and thousands and thousands of messages calling me stupid, uneducated, unintelligent, no brain, airhead, all of these sorts of things. This is what people love to call other people or other things that they cannot understand. I grew up being a blonde, not a natural blonde anymore, but I was a natural blonde as a child, and I was constantly on the receiving end of dumb blonde jokes and things like that. So I did not even realize, I genuinely did not even realize, because my friends all shared the same sentiment about themselves. Like, we tend to attract people that have our similar identity. So we're not even going to notice it in our friends or in ourselves or anything like that. But I did not even realize that I had adopted this identity of believing that I was so much stupider or less intelligent than everyone else. I thought that my intelligence level must be so far below average because I'm so often called stupid, told that I'm uneducated, and things like that. And this hurt my feelings for so much of my life because I was on the honor roll in school. I always got, excuse me, something stuck in my throat chakra blockage. I always got really, really good grades in school. I ran a club when I was in high school that was for a nonprofit organization in order to promote safe and healthy water distribution throughout rural Africa. Like, there were so many things that I did in my life that I felt like prove that I am not just this idiot and just a stupid person, but I was constantly told that. And for me, for whatever reason in my life, I was told that more than I was told the opposite. And you can look even at just what happened in the past week. I got thousands and thousands of messages from strangers telling me I'm stupid, telling me I'm uneducated because I shared something that they don't agree with, or I shared an opinion that they don't quite understand, right? Do you think that there's ever a time that I suddenly get thousands and thousands and thousands of messages from people saying, wow, you are the smartest person on the planet. You have the intelligence of a genius. Do you think that? Because that is not the case. And I know that other influencers will say the same. The people that hate on you are always the loudest. And so whether you post online or if you just go to work, however you interact with this world, you are going to receive that feedback a lot more than you're going to receive the support. For whatever reason, we don't naturally go up to someone and tell them, hey, I think you're so smart. I think you're so cool. You're so pretty. I love your makeup, like all of this stuff. We don't do that. But people are very, very quick when they're angry to roll down the window in a road rage incident and be like, you freaking idiot. Like, why did you cut me off? Or something like that. So keep that in mind, that you might have a negative perspective of the world just because that is what you've experienced. And for me, that's what I experienced. I got always so many more hate messages than love messages. And this is just part of human nature. Anger is a lot louder than love. Anger is a lot more of a motivator to get us to say something or do something than love or admiration. That can often keep us quiet, right? When we're a fan of something, are you necessarily going to be very loud and proud about it, unless of course you're at their concert or whatever it is? But what I'm trying to say here is that up until well into my 20s, I genuinely thought that other people were smarter than me, and this put me in a very, very naive and vulnerable position. This put me in a position of always being a consumer, of always needing to talk to my therapist or talk to my coach or talk to somebody that I could trust who was smarter and more equipped and more knowledgeable and more educated than I was about any decision that I was making. I did not trust myself to make decisions, and I often echoed a lot of these voices when I would talk to myself. I didn't even realize how hard on myself I was being all the time because it was just my norm and it was just how everyone had talked to me my whole entire life. I genuinely thought that I was stupid. I genuinely did. And in my spiritual awakening, there's a lot of different things that I decided to try. I did a chakra photo just to see what my chakras would look like, or like my auras would look like, before I started activating my third eye, and I could just start to see auras just with my own eyes and things like that on my own. I did EMDR, I did past life regressions, I did so many different things. I did lots of different types of detoxes. I'm talking about physical detoxes as well as mental, emotional, and energetic detoxes. And as I was doing all of these different detoxes and things like that, I found myself wanting to get a brain scan. I was always taking supplements and herbs in order to improve my intelligence level, to improve my neuroplasticity, because I inherently believed on a deep level that I was very stupid. I always believed that I was stupider than all of my siblings in to so many degrees, like levels stupider than all of them. That's probably a wound. That's probably why I stopped there for a second. So we can see how these things can really deeply impact us. In my spiritual awakening, I decided to get a brain scan, and I could genuinely not believe the results. I got multiple more brain scans. I talked to multiple more professionals and experts and things like that because I assumed that they had swapped my results with somebody else's. Like, they probably made a mistake, because I know deep down in my soul and in my identity that I am actually a much lower intelligence level than average, right? So when I got my brain scan back, I saw very clearly that I processed not just the average amount of information as the average brain, not twice as much as the average amount of information, but almost 3 times as much as the average brain in every moment. So my brain is taking on almost 3 times as much information when it comes to smells, temperature, sounds, all of these different things than the average brain, whatever that means. And I've always been this way. This is how my brain has always operated. And what this showed me is that my brain is actually very, very intelligent. My brain is actually so sensitive and so intelligent, and that I had just been misunderstood for so much of my life. That there were so many instances that I was explaining something that I personally could understand, but because the other people around me couldn't understand it, they called me stupid, they called me uneducated, they said that I had no intelligence level or things like that. And so I internalized this belief that I am weak, that I am stupid, that I am not able to make decisions. I lived like this for so much of my life. Even though I was on the honor roll, even though I had a good education, even though I got good grades and all of these things, on a deep level, if you were to really ask me, what is your deepest insecurity? How do you see yourself? It would have been that I just am not as smart as other people. And that is such a painful insecurity to have. I know that it's kind of easier to talk about physical insecurities and things that we can change in our physical body, but how do you change that? If you know on a deep level that you just are not intelligent, are not smart, and you have this deep insecurity, like, what do you even do? So that insecurity is what led me to do all of the spiritual practices that I wanted to do, all the detoxes, all of the nootropics, all of the things to support my brain, and eventually led me to get a brain scan. And I am so glad that I did. Now, that was many years ago, but in that moment, my identity completely shifted, and I was able to see the world in a completely different way. The reason that I share this story that is very vulnerable to me, and it is a very, very important and sacred part of my own personal healing journey, the reason I share this is because I know that I'm not the only one. I'm not the only woman that was raised to believe that she was unequipped for this world, who felt like they were just cosplaying as a human being. I know I am not the only woman who heard more dumb blonde jokes than she heard words of affirmation or things like that. I know I'm not the only woman who doubted herself, even though she was a high achiever and achieved all of the goals and all of the grades, and her life looks perfect on paper. I know that I am not the only person who's experiencing that. And I know that because I talk to people every single day who are struggling with having a harsh inner critic, who are struggling with seeing who they truly are, who they really, really are through the eyes of their creator, through the eyes of God. And when we allow ourselves to see ourselves through those eyes, oh my God, I cannot even begin. Unless you've experienced it, you haven't experienced it. There is nothing that I'm literally like getting emotional even thinking about it. It's just so wild to live your whole life under the perspective or under the projection of the people around you, being the person that they told you to be, or being the person that you assumed yourself to be, having to take on the role of a mother, having to take on the role of an employee, or all of these things. And then to be able to see yourself through the eyes of God and to see that there is nothing flawed about you at all, that you are so beautiful in your heart and in your soul, that you were created in perfection. Wow. When you are able to drown out the noise of this world that tells you that you need a certain car, certain outfit, certain makeup, certain skin, certain eye color, tan, like whatever all the worldly stuff is, and you just allow yourself to be seen through God's eyes, you allow yourself to imagine what it would be like to see yourself through the eyes of your creator, everything changes for you. Because imagine going up to a butterfly and telling it that it's stupid. Imagine telling a waterfall that it's not as beautiful or powerful as another waterfall that you saw. Imagine telling a tree that it's too old or too young. It's impossible. It is truly impossible. I don't know why this is making me emotional. I guess this is a very, very powerful message to be sharing today. And that's who you are as well. You are as perfect as a tree, as perfect as a waterfall, as perfect as a butterfly. There's nowhere that you could flutter that is the wrong place to flutter. There's no way that you can flutter that's the wrong way to flutter. There's nothing that you can say that is the wrong thing to say. Because even if you say something that hurts other people's feelings or triggers them or whatever it is, that was part of your nature. That is part of why you were put here. The same way that sometimes a tree's mission is literally just to grow roots that mess up a whole sidewalk or a road or whatever it is. You might be here to mess it up, and that might be part of your perfect mission. The perfection within you might be that you're here to mess things up. You're here to be a pattern interrupter. You're here to not talk shit to yourself all the time, how your mom did and your grandmother did and all of these women around you, and to actually be a friend to yourself. Maybe you're here to live in a way that is different than you imagine was possible. And maybe that way is to just be happy and to just be confident. I think that so many people have so many things to say about a spiritual awakening, and it is so beautiful. I love it. I love the ecosystem that we call the human experience. I love that we all have different perspectives and preferences and opinions, and all of that is literally godliness. Like, all of us embody the essence of source. And so by literally experiencing life however we choose to experience life, we are source experiencing itself. It is so incredibly beautiful. And I could not even understand this before my spiritual awakening. I would watch videos about spiritual awakenings and they just wouldn't resonate with me. I couldn't really relate. And maybe that's the case for you too. It's okay. It is really okay. But I just want you to know that just hearing this information today could be a pivotal moment for you in your spiritual journey. It could be a moment that you put down the sword that you've been holding up to yourself, fighting yourself all day, every day, draining your own energy, trying to dim your own light, fighting God to not be yourself, basically. Like, not being authentic is like fighting God every single day. And how freaking amazing it feels to just be yourself. To be the identity that you were designed to be, the identity that crosses lifetimes, that crosses parallel dimensions, that crosses your lineage. It is so, so beautiful, and it is so, so powerful to give yourself that freedom. Now, the steps that I took to truly be able to see myself, in addition to what I shared here, the brain scan and things like that, really came down to getting to identify who I am outside of the lens of who people told me to be. And I did that by reading my Akashic Records, which is another word for like the book of your soul. You can identify your Akashic Records in your astrological charts, in your human design, and you can also get an Akashic Record reading where someone can support you in a meditation, guiding you into your Akashic Records so that we can pull out and channel from your higher self, your soul's blueprint directly. Your Akashic Records can hold so much information about you, down to your intelligence level, your identity, your soul purpose, your mission, the romance that you're meant to experience in this lifetime, and what to look for in a partner, how to navigate conflicts and situations with your partner, everything from your career, your finances, absolutely everything about you is in these Akashic Records. And that is how I first discovered that I even needed to do a brain scan and things like that. So if this has resonated with you at all, if you feel that you are on the precipice of an identity shift within yourself, if you are ready to step into who you truly are, not who you were told to be, not more of the insecurity, but more of that God confidence, that soul confidence, then I would strongly encourage you to start exploring your Akashic Records, to start detoxing your emotions, your nervous system, healing your hormones, and rising to the next level of your personal frequency. There's so many ways that I can support you in doing this. You can check out the links that I have listed down below to find my courses. I have some best-selling products and things that you can download right away. Start elevating your frequency right here, today, right now. If you're still feeling energetically blocked, I have a free PDF called the Mind Map, where I've outlined over 12 different common mindset blockages that I've noticed within my clients over the years, as well as a proven practice that you can use to instantly let go of that old limiting belief about yourself and step into a more empowering and energized version of you. I also have mentorship available as well as one-on-one sessions where I can offer you Akashic record readings, channeled guidance, and so much more. So if this interests you, all you have to do is check out the links down below, fill out your information, join the waitlist, and I will personally send you an email letting you know about my different packages and some ways that we can move forward from there. Thank you so much for joining me today for this beautiful, powerful talk. Thank you for holding space for me while things got a little bit emotional over here. And please know that I am holding space for you too. I'm sending you so, so much love as you rise into the best version of yourself. Let go of all of these things that are no longer serving you and becoming the person, the version that you know deep down that you were always meant to be. So much love being sent your way. If you want to receive this Reiki, just comment below, received, and you will receive this as you go on into your day. Thank you, thank you. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.